Jake Morrison stood at the wide window of his ship, watching the giant space station spin slowly in the darkness. Nexus Prime was bigger than any city on Earth, its metal walls gleaming under the light of two bright stars. Inside that station, alien leaders from across the galaxy were deciding humanity's future. Jake did not like what he was hearing. His ship, the Horizon, floated quietly among hundreds of other vessels. Most belonged to species that had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. The humans had only been part of this galactic community for 300 years, and they were still treated like children who could not be trusted with important decisions. "Captain," Morrison touched the communication device on his ear. "Admiral Kane, are you getting this?" Lisa Kane's voice came through clearly from inside the station. "Every word, Jake. The Zephyrians just finished explaining why humans are too stupid to handle real responsibility." Jake watched through the window as tall, pale figures moved through the station's corridors. The Zephyrians looked like ghosts made of light, their skin so clear you could almost see through it. They spoke in musical voices and acted like they were the wisest beings in the universe. Right now, they were telling the Galactic Council that humans should never be allowed to leave their home solar system. "What about the Vrex?" Jake asked. "They agree with the Zephyrians," Lisa replied. "They say humans are too violent and unpredictable. The insect people are clicking and hissing about how we should stay in our cage." Jake's hands tightened into fists. The Vrex looked like giant ants that walked on two legs, with hard shells covering their bodies and multiple eyes that never seemed to blink. They controlled the galaxy's military forces and had never lost a war. At least, that was what everyone believed. Inside the station, Admiral Kane sat in the human section of the Great Council chamber. The room was enormous, with seats for representatives from 47 different species. The human section was small and placed in the back like an afterthought. Kane had been Earth's voice in galactic politics for 10 years, and she was tired of being ignored that the Altarian ambassador was speaking now. Serenity Brightwind was beautiful in the way her people always were, with silver skin and eyes like stars. Her voice was soft, but everyone listened when she spoke. "The humans have shown improvement in recent decades," Serenity said carefully, "but they still lack the wisdom needed for true galactic citizenship. Perhaps in another century or two we can discuss expanding their role." Kane felt her jaw tighten. Another century. Another 2 centuries. Always tomorrow, never today. The aliens spoke about humans, like they were talking about pets that might someday learn a clever trick. The vote was not even close. 39 species voted to keep humans restricted to their home system. Only 8 voted to give them more freedom. The official reason was that humans were too aggressive and might disturb galactic peace. Kane stood up as the session ended. Around her, alien delegates chatted in dozens of different languages. Some sounded like music, others like machinery, and a few like animals making noise. None of them sounded worried about what they had just done. "Admiral Kane?" called a familiar voice. She turned to see Dr. Alex Turner approaching through the crowd. Turner was Earth's top expert on alien biology, and he had been studying the other species for most of his life. "Did you hear the vote?" Kane asked. "I heard," Turner replied quietly. "I also heard something else. Something I think you need to." "No." They walked together toward the docking bay where human ships waited. Turner was a thin man with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. He had spent decades living among aliens, learning their languages and studying their history. "What did you learn?" Kane asked. Turner looked around to make sure no aliens were listening. "They're not just keeping us locked up, Lisa. They're planning something called the Cleansing Protocol." Kane stopped walking. "What is that?" "From what I could gather, it's a plan to eliminate humans entirely if we become too much trouble. Complete genocide. They've done it before to other species that didn't fit their idea of galactic order." The words hit Kane like a physical blow. She had suspected the aliens did not like humans, but she had not imagined they would consider murder on such a scale. "Are you certain?" she asked. Turner nodded grimly. "I have recordings. Secret meetings, planning documents, resource allocations." They're not just afraid of us, Lisa, they want us gone. Kane looked out at the stars visible through the station's windows. Somewhere out there was Earth, home to 8 billion humans who had no idea their entire species had just been marked for death. "We need to contact General Cole," she said. Back on Earth, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Ryan Cole was. Already reading the reports? The underground facility had been built to survive nuclear war, but today it was serving a different purpose. Around a long table sat the most important military leaders, scientists, and planners from across the human government. "The vote was predictable," Cole said to the assembled group. "What concerns me more is Dr. Turner's intelligence about this cleansing protocol." Dr. Helen Ross, Earth's leading physicist, pulled up a holographic display. "If they're planning to eliminate us, we need to accelerate our timeline." "What timeline?" asked Colonel Sam Peters, the youngest person in the room. Ross smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "The timeline for showing them what humans can really do." She waved her hand and the hologram changed. Instead of Earth's official space fleet of 12 small ships, it showed a massive armada of vessels unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "For 300 years, we've been building in secret," Ross explained. "Hidden shipyards, concealed colonies, weapons that officially don't exist. The aliens think they know our capabilities because we've been very careful to show them only what we wanted them to see." Peters stared at the display. "How many ships, currently?" "About 800 combat vessels plus support craft. But that's not the real advantage." Ross changed the display again. "The real advantage is that we know everything about them, and they know nothing about us." Dr. Turner's research appeared on the screen. Detailed studies of every alien species, their psychology, their weaknesses, their military capabilities. Humans had been watching and learning for centuries while pretending to be harmless. Every other species in the galaxy evolved on easy worlds. Turner's voice came through the speakers as his report played. Worlds with stable climates, few predators, and abundant food. They developed as prey animals or peaceful gatherers. Their instincts tell them to avoid conflict, to negotiate, to submit when threatened. The display showed images of alien homeworlds. Garden planets with gentle weather and friendly wildlife. Nothing like Earth with its ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and constant evolutionary pressure. "Humans are different," Turner continued. "We evolved as hunters on a world that tried to kill us every day. Our instincts tell us to fight back, to eliminate threats, to never give up. The aliens think this makes us dangerous and unpredictable. They're right, but they don't understand what that really means." General Cole stood up. "The question is simple. Do we continue pretending to be weak while they plan our extinction? Or do we show them why Earth is classified as a death world?" The vote was unanimous. After 3 centuries of hiding their true strength, humanity was ready to stop pretending. "Send the message to all our hidden colonies," Cole ordered. "Tell Captain Morrison to prepare his ship for a demonstration mission, and activate the deep space monitoring stations. If the aliens want to see what humans can do when they stop holding back, they're about to get their wish." As the meeting ended, Dr. Ross looked at the star charts showing human colonies the aliens had never discovered. Soon, the galaxy would learn that the species they had tried to cage had been preparing for this moment for generations. The day of reckoning was about to begin. 3 weeks had passed since the Galactic Council's vote when Captain Jake Morrison received the distress signal. His ship, the Horizon, was patrolling the outer edge of human space when the emergency message came through. "Captain, we're getting a help signal from the Zephyrian Research Station on Kepler 7, reported Lieutenant Sam Peters from his position at the communications console. Morrison walked over to look at the data. The signal was weak and broken, but the message was clear enough. Pirates from the Krillian Empire had attacked the station. They were holding scientists hostage and demanding payment for their release. "How many pirates?" Morrison asked. "Unknown." "Sir, the signal cut out before they could give us details?" Morrison thought for a moment. The Krillians were known throughout the galaxy as the most savage species in space. They were bigger and stronger than most aliens, with thick skin that could stop small weapons and reflexes faster than a striking snake. Their empire survived by raiding peaceful worlds and selling captured beings as slaves. "Set course for Kepler 7, Morrison ordered, "and send a message to the Zephyrian station. Tell them help is coming." When they arrived at the research station 2 hours later, Morrison could see the damage through his ship's cameras. Blast marks covered the station's outer walls, and several sections had been torn open by explosives. A Krillian warship sat attached to the station like a parasite feeding on its host. Morrison opened a communication channel to the station. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon. Please respond." A harsh voice answered, speaking the common galactic language with a thick accent. "This is War Chief Grath of the Krillian Empire. You will leave immediately, or we will add your ship to our collection." "I'm here to help the Zephyrian scientists," Morrison replied calmly. Grath laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. "The Pale Ones are our prisoners now. Their government will pay well for their return, or we will sell them to the slave markets. Either way, you have no business here, human." Another voice broke into the conversation. This one was musical and light, clearly Zephyrian. "Captain Morrison, this is Commander Veltar. Please, you must leave. These creatures are too dangerous. They have killed 6 of my people already." "I understand your concern, Commander," Morrison said. "But I have medical supplies and equipment that might help your wounded." "Request permission." "To dock? Absolutely not," Veltar replied quickly. "Your people lack the tactical capabilities to deal with Krillian warriors. I will not have more deaths on my conscience." Morrison smiled grimly. If only they knew what human tactical capabilities really looked like. "War Chief Grath?" Morrison said, switching back to the pirate channel. "I'm coming aboard with medical supplies only. My ship is not armed for combat. I pose no threat to your operation." Grath's laughter came through the speakers again. "Fine, little human. Come aboard and watch how real warriors work. But if you interfere, I will feed you too. My crew personally." Morrison cut the communication and turned to his team. "Peters, gather 11 volunteers for a medical mission. Make sure they bring the special equipment." Peters grinned. "The kind of medical equipment that puts people to sleep, sir?" "Exactly that kind." Within minutes, Morrison had his team assembled in the shuttle bay. They wore standard medical uniforms, but underneath were suits made from materials the galaxy had never seen. The suits could turn their wearers nearly invisible and protected them from most known weapons. Each team member carried medical supplies and what appeared to be simple scanning devices. In reality, they were carrying the most advanced non-lethal weapons ever created. The shuttle docked with the research station without incident. Grath was waiting for them with 2 of his warriors. Up close, the Krillians were even more intimidating than their reputation suggested. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with muscles like twisted cables under their thick gray skin. Scars covered their bodies, each one a trophy from past battles. "So these are the famous humans," Grath said, looking down at Morrison. "You are smaller than I expected." "We make up for it in other ways," Morrison replied politely. Grath led them through the station's corridors. The walls were scorched black from weapon fire, and the air smelled of smoke and fear. They passed several Zephyrian scientists huddled in corners, their pale faces streaked with tears. "How many prisoners are you holding?" Morrison asked. 43. "Of the Pale Ones," Grath answered. "Plus their research data, which will sell well to the right buyers." "And how many warriors in your crew?" Grath's chest swelled with pride. 37 of the finest Krillian fighters, each one worth 10 of any other species in battle. Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "That's quite impressive." What Grath did not notice was Peters quietly touching his ear and speaking in a whisper. Too soft for alien ears to hear. "All teams, we have 37 targets spread throughout the station. Begin Phase 1. The human team split up to tend to wounded Zephyrians in different sections of the station. To any observer, they looked like harmless medical workers doing their job. The Krillian guards watched them with bored contempt, seeing no threat from the small, weak humans. That was their first mistake. Lieutenant Sarah Kim was checking on wounded scientists in the station's medical bay when she encountered her first Krillian guard. The warrior was massive, his weapon almost as long as she was tall. He barely glanced at her as she moved around the room. Kim activated a small device on her belt. The Krillian suddenly looked confused, then his eyes rolled back and he collapsed to the floor, unconscious. Kim caught his weapon before it could clatter and wake anyone. Across the station, similar scenes played out. Corporal Danny White was in the research laboratories when he found two Krillian warriors arguing over which computer files to steal. A brief pulse from his medical scanner put both of them to sleep in seconds. Private Lisa Stone encountered 3 pirates in the station's main corridor. They were larger than her and armed with weapons that could blast through steel walls. It took her exactly 45 seconds to render all 3 unconscious and hide their bodies in a storage room. The Krillians never knew what hit them. The human equipment worked faster than alien reflexes and made no sound. One by one, the fearsome pirates simply vanished from their posts. Morrison kept Grath distracted by asking questions about Krillian culture and military tactics. The war chief was happy to boast about his people's strength and the battles they had won. "Your species interests me," Morrison said as they walked through the station's command center. "I've heard Krillians can defeat any enemy in single combat." "This is true," Grath replied proudly. "We have conquered 40 worlds and enslaved dozens of species. No one can stand against Krillian might." "What about multiple enemies at once?" Grath laughed. "Numbers mean nothing. 1 Krillian warrior is worth 10 of any other fighter." Morrison's communication device chirped softly. Peter's voice was barely a whisper. "All targets neutralized, Captain." "Station is secure." "Fascinating," Morrison said to Grath. "Tell me, how do you coordinate your forces during complex operations?" "Coordinate?" Grath looked confused. "Krillians do not need coordination. Each warrior fights alone and trusts in his own strength." "That was their second mistake." Morrison touched his communication device. "War Chief Grath, I have some news that might interest you." "What news, human?" "Your 37 warriors are currently unconscious in my ship's cargo bay." Grath stared at Morrison for a long moment, then threw back his head and laughed. "Impossible. You lie to save face before your death?" Morrison activated a holographic display on his medical scanner. The image showed the cargo bay of the Horizon, where 37 Krillian warriors lay unconscious on medical beds. They were stripped of their weapons and restrained with bonds they could not break. Grath's laughter died in his throat. "This cannot be. My warriors are the finest in the galaxy." "I'm sure they are," Morrison said gently. "But they were fighting humans, not other aliens." The war chief's hand moved toward his weapon, but he froze when he realized that 12 medical scanners were now pointed at him. Each one was held by a human who no longer looked harmless. "I don't understand," Grath whispered. "How did you defeat my warriors without us hearing battle sounds?" "We didn't fight them," Morrison explained. "We simply put them to sleep. Our medical equipment is quite advanced." Peters stepped forward with a device that looked like a simple medical injector. "This will make you unconscious for about 6 hours. When you wake up, you'll be in a holding cell on our ship. You and your crew will be returned to Krillian space with a message for your empire." "What message?" Grath asked. Morrison's expression became very serious. "That humans are no longer playing by the old rules." The injection took effect quickly. As Grath collapsed, Morrison turned to help the freed Zephyrian prisoners. Commander Veltar approached him with wide eyes full of disbelief. "How did you do this?" Veltar asked. "Krillian warriors are supposed to be unbeatable in combat." "They probably are unbeatable in combat," Morrison replied. "That's why we didn't fight them." News of the rescue spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The official reports focused on the fortunate outcome and suggested that the pirates must have been weakened by disease or equipment failure. The Krillian Empire was not happy about losing 37 warriors to a handful of humans. Within days of the Kepler-7 incident, War Chief Malthan appeared before the Galactic Council demanding justice. He was even larger than Grath, with battle scars covering his massive frame like a roadmap of violence. "The humans used illegal weapons," Malthan roared, his voice echoing through the council chamber. "They violated the Galactic Combat Accords. They must be punished." Admiral Lisa. Kane sat in the human section, watching the alien delegates whisper among themselves. She could see the fear in their eyes, though they tried to hide it. The rescue at Kepler-7 had shaken their comfortable view of human weakness. "What evidence do you have of illegal weapons?" asked Serenity Brightwind, the Altarian ambassador. Her silver skin seemed to glow under the chamber's lights, but her star-like eyes showed concern. Malthan slammed his fist on his speaking platform. 37 Krillian warriors do not simply fall asleep during battle. The humans use some kind of poison gas or mind control device. General Kixta of the Vrex clicked his mandibles together, a sign of deep thought among his insect-like people. "The humans claim they used only medical equipment. Do you have proof otherwise?" "I have proof of impossible results," Malthan replied. "No species in the galaxy can defeat Krillian warriors without a fight. Yet there was no battle, no weapons fire, no signs of struggle. This can only mean the humans cheated." Kane stood up. Slowly, the chamber fell quiet as all eyes turned to her. She had requested permission to address the council, and they had agreed, probably expecting her to apologize or make excuses. "Honored delegates," Kane began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast room. "War Chief Malthan is correct about one thing. What happened at Kepler-7 should be impossible according to your understanding of human capabilities." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. This was not the defensive response they had expected. Kane continued. "The truth is, we have been less than honest with you for the past 3 centuries. She activated a holographic display that appeared above the chamber's center. The image showed detailed surveillance footage from dozens of alien worlds, ships, and military installations. For 300 years, humanity has been watching and listening to everything that happens in galactic space. We know about your secret military bases, your hidden trade agreements, your private conversations about other species." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Delegates jumped to their feet, shouting questions and accusations. Kane waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "We know that the Zephyrians have been secretly developing weapons that drain energy from enemy ships. We know that the Vrex have built an army 3 times larger than they report to the Council. We know that the Altarians have been using their beauty and charm to manipulate trade deals in their favor." More shouting filled the chamber. Some delegates demanded to know how humans had gathered such information. Others accused Kane of lying. Dr. Alex Turner appeared on the holographic display, speaking from his laboratory on Earth. "Every species represented in this chamber evolved on what humans call garden worlds. Peaceful planets with stable climates, abundant food, and few natural dangers. Your evolutionary history shaped you to be prey animals, herd creatures, or peaceful gatherers." The display showed images of alien homeworlds. Beautiful planets with gentle weather and friendly wildlife. Paradise worlds where the biggest danger might be falling from a tree. "Earth is different," Turner continued. "Our world tried to kill us every single day. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun. Asteroid impacts that wiped out entire species. Plagues that killed millions. Predators that hunted us for food." The display changed to show Earth's violent history. Massive glaciers grinding across continents. Exploding mountains that buried entire regions in ash. Creatures with teeth like swords and claws like spears. Humans evolved to be persistence hunters on a death world. Our natural response to threats is not to negotiate or run away. Our natural response is to eliminate the threat completely and permanently. Kane took control of the display again. "This is why we have been pretending to be weaker than we are. We learned early that our true nature frightens other species. So we decided to hide our real capabilities until we needed them." The holographic display showed the true extent of human expansion. Instead of 12 worlds in their home system, humans had secretly colonized 47 worlds across 6 different sectors of space. Each colony was heavily defended and completely hidden from galactic surveillance. "Your mining ships," gasped Commander Valtar of the Zephyrians. "They were not just mining." "Correct," Kane replied. "They were construction vessels building infrastructure for our real expansion. Every mining operation you monitored was actually a military base, a shipyard, or a research facility." General Kixta's compound eyes focused intently on the display. "How many ships do you really have?" Kane smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "More than the rest of the galaxy combined." The display showed massive shipyards hidden inside asteroids and beneath ocean floors. Hundreds of vessels that looked nothing like the simple cargo ships the galaxy had grown accustomed to seeing. These were warships built for a kind of warfare that other species had never imagined. "But the most important thing you need to understand," Kane said, her voice becoming very serious, "is why I am telling you all of this now." She activated another section of the holographic display. Recorded conversations began playing through the chamber's speakers. Alien voices discussing something called the cleansing protocol. "The human population has grown too large," said a voice that belonged to a high-ranking Zephyrian official. "They consume too many resources and ask too many questions." "Agreed," replied a Vrex military commander. "The Council should authorize immediate action before they become a real threat." "A quick strike at their home world should eliminate most of them," suggested an Altarian trade minister. "We can claim it was a natural disaster." The recordings continued for several minutes. Detailed plans for human genocide, complete with resource allocations and timeline proposals. The chamber fell completely silent as the alien delegates listened. To their own species planning mass murder, Kane let the recordings play until the end, then shut off the display. "You voted to keep us trapped in our home system. But that was not enough for some of you. You decided that the only good human was a dead human." War Chief Malthan, who had been quiet during the revelations, suddenly laughed. "So the prey animals finally show their teeth. What do you plan to do about it, human?" Kane looked directly at him. "We are going to give you a choice, War Chief, the same choice we are giving to every species represented here." She reactivated the holographic display. This time it showed star charts with human colonies marked in red and alien territories marked in different colors. Choice 1. Humanity joins the Galactic Council as a full member with equal voting rights and unrestricted expansion privileges. We forget about the cleansing protocol and work together for galactic peace. "And choice 2? Asked Serenity Brightwind, though her voice suggested she already knew the answer. "Choice 2. You learn why. Earth is classified as a death world." The silence in the chamber was deafening. Delegates looked at each other with growing fear. They had spent centuries treating humans like harmless pets, never realizing they were living next to the galaxy's most dangerous predators. General Kixta was the first to speak. "You are threatening the entire Galactic Council." "No," Kane replied calmly. "We are offering you the chance to avoid a war that you cannot win. We have studied every species here for 300 years. We know your weaknesses, your tactics, your technology, and your psychology. You know almost nothing about us." "This is outrageous," shouted a delegate from the back of the chamber. "One species cannot dictate terms to the entire galaxy." Kane's expression became very cold. "Watch us." She began walking toward the chamber's exit. "You have 24 hours to vote. Choose wisely." As Kane reached the door, she turned back one final time. "Oh, and War Chief Malthan? Your warriors are being returned to Krillian space with a message. The next time your people attack innocent researchers, we will not be so gentle." After Kane left, the chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded immediate military action against humanity. Others called for negotiation. A few simply sat in shocked silence, but in the private communication channels that they thought were secure, alien leaders were already receiving disturbing reports. Scout ships that had not checked in for months. Border stations that had gone silent. trade vessels that had disappeared without sending distress calls, all in areas where human mining ships had been operating. The galaxy was beginning to realize that the species they had tried to cage had been preparing for this moment for centuries. The vote was scheduled for the next day, but many delegates already suspected what the outcome would be. The Deathworlders had finally stopped pretending to be harmless. Now, the galaxy would learn what that really meant. The Galactic Council's response to Admiral Kane's ultimatum came exactly 24 hours later. The vote was 39-8, the same numbers that had restricted humanity to their home system, but this time they were voting for war. The Council declares humanity a rogue species, announced the Zephyrian Council President, his musical voice carrying across all galactic communication channels. Immediate military action is authorized to restore galactic order. Fleet Admiral Zektar of the Vrex received the authorization with satisfaction. For centuries, his people had been the galaxy's military leaders, feared by all other species for their tactical brilliance and ruthless efficiency. The insect-like admiral had never lost a battle, and he did not intend to start now. "Assemble the Grand Fleet," Zektar ordered his subordinates. "Every available warship from every member species. We will show these Deathworlders what real military power looks like." Within hours, the largest military force in galactic history began gathering at the Nexus system. 200 warships from 47 different species, including the galaxy's most advanced dreadnoughts. Zephyrian vessels with shields that could deflect planet-killer weapons. Vrex battleships armed with plasma cannons that could melt asteroids. Altarian cruisers carrying precision beam weapons that could hit targets from 3-star systems away. The target was humanity's secret colony of New Terra, recently revealed by Council intelligence. The attack was planned as a demonstration to show humans their place in the galactic order. Destroy one colony, capture its defenders, and the rest of humanity would surrender. Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Annihilator, watching the massive fleet take formation. "How long until we reach New Terra?" he asked his navigation officer. 6 hours at maximum hyperspace speed, Admiral." "Excellent. Send a message to all ship commanders. This will be a quick operation. Disable their defenses, capture prisoners for interrogation, and prepare the colony for occupation." What Admiral Zektar did not know was that his fleet had been tracked since the moment it left. Nexus Prime, human observation posts, hidden throughout galactic space, monitored every ship movement and communication. By the time the alien armada reached New Terra, humanity was ready. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new command, the battle cruiser Vengeance. The ship was 3 times larger than his old vessel and carried weapons that violated several laws of physics. Around him, displays showed the approaching alien fleet in perfect detail. 200 ships, reported Lieutenant Sam Peters from his tactical station. "They brought everything they have." Morrison smiled grimly. "Good, that means we only have to do this once." The human fleet that emerged from New Terra's shadow was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 50 vessels that moved like living creatures, their hulls black as space itself and covered with weapon systems that seemed to bend light around them. They moved in perfect coordination, responding to threats before the enemy had even decided to make them. Admiral Zektar stared at the tactical display on his bridge, trying to understand what he was seeing. "Those ship designs are impossible. How are they maintaining formation at that speed?" "Unknown, Admiral," replied his tactical officer. "Our sensors cannot get accurate readings on their capabilities." "No matter," Zektar said confidently. "We outnumber them 4-1. All ships attack formation. Target their largest vessels first." The Battle of New Terra began with the galaxy's most powerful weapons firing at maximum range. Zephyrian energy cannons that could crack moons discharged their fury at the human fleet. Vrex plasma torpedoes that burned hotter than stars streaked through space toward their targets. Altarian precision beams, accurate enough to hit a coin from 1,000 kilometers, focused their deadly light on human ships. None of it mattered. The human vessels absorbed the incoming fire like it was nothing more than gentle rain, their shields converted the attacking energy into power for their own weapon systems. When the alien barrage ended, the human ships were actually stronger than when the battle started. "Impossible," whispered Zektar, his compound eyes wide with disbelief. "Nothing can withstand that level of firepower." Morrison's voice came across the communication channel, calm and professional. "Admiral Zektar, this is Captain Morrison of the Terran Defense Force. You are attacking a human colony. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." "Zektar S?" Mandibles clicked together in anger. "I am Fleet Admiral Zektar, Supreme Commander of Galactic Military Forces. You will surrender your ships and submit to Council authority." "I'm afraid that's not going to happen, Admiral." The human counterattack began without warning. Weapons that fired projectiles through hyperspace struck alien ships before their sensors could track the incoming fire. Energy beams that shifted frequency faster than defensive shields could adapt carved through enemy hulls like paper. Missiles that learned from each impact became more effective with every shot, but most terrifying of all was the coordination of the human fleet. The ships moved as if they shared a single mind, covering each other's attacks and responding to threats with supernatural precision. When Vrex fighters tried to overwhelm individual human vessels, they found themselves trapped in crossfire from ships they had not even seen. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Barnes led the boarding actions against crippled alien vessels. Her teams moved through enemy ships like ghosts, appearing wherever resistance was strongest and vanishing before counterattacks could form. They disabled crew members with weapons that put entire corridors to sleep simultaneously. The captured aliens were treated well, given medical care and comfortable quarters. But the psychological impact was devastating. They had been defeated by beings they considered inferior, using technology they thought impossible, with tactics that turned space combat into an art form. Admiral Zektar watched his mighty fleet disappear from his tactical displays. Ships that had been the pride of their species for centuries were being systematically destroyed or captured. The humans were not just winning, they were making it look easy. "All ships retreat to hyperspace," Zektar ordered desperately. "Admiral, most of our ships cannot retreat," his communications officer reported. "The humans have some kind of hyperspace inhibitor. Our drives are not responding." Morrison's voice came through the speakers again. "Admiral, your fleet is finished. Order your remaining ships to surrender, and I will allow them to leave with skeleton crews to carry news of this battle." Zektar looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. These were the finest military minds in the galaxy, veterans of dozens of campaigns. Now they stared at their instruments in complete confusion, unable to understand how their superior technology and numbers had become useless. "How?" Zektar asked, his voice barely a whisper. "How did you defeat us so easily?" "You made the same mistake everyone makes when facing humans," Morrison replied. "You assumed we were like you. You planned for a battle between civilized species. With rules and limitations, we planned for war. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the galactic fleet had ceased to exist, not defeated, not damaged, completely annihilated. Of 200 warships, only 3 escaped to tell the tale. They carried with them footage that would haunt galactic commanders for generations on Earth. General Ryan Cole received the battle reports in his underground command center. Phase 2 of humanity's response was already beginning. Hidden colonies throughout the galaxy revealed themselves, each one defended by weapon platforms that made the new Terra. Battle looked like a training exercise. Dr. Helen Ross monitored the activation of humanity's true industrial capacity. Shipyards that had been building in secret for centuries came online. Manufacturing plants that produced materials stronger than anything known to galactic science began working at full capacity. The galaxy's trade routes, which had operated peacefully for thousands of years, suddenly found themselves under human observation. Vessels that appeared from nowhere scanned cargo manifests and monitored communications. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer hiding. Dr. Alex Turner watched the Galactic News Network struggle to explain what had happened at New Terra. Some blamed equipment failures. Others suggested the human ships had been crewed by unknown allies. A few came closer to the truth, suggesting that humanity had been hiding their real capabilities all along, but none of them understood the full scope of what they were facing. The species they had tried to eliminate had been preparing for this moment for 3 centuries. Every mining ship had been a spy vessel. Every trade negotiation had been an intelligence-gathering operation. Every friendly diplomatic contact had been a chance to study alien weaknesses. The galaxy would never be the same. The apex predators had finally stopped pretending to be prey, and their first demonstration of true strength had shattered the existing order completely. War. Chief Malfin of the Krillians received news of the battle while raiding a merchant convoy. His warriors, who had boasted about being the galaxy's finest fighters, fell silent when they learned what had happened to the supposedly superior galactic fleet. "Perhaps," Malfin said quietly, "we should reconsider our relationship with these humans." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. The Deathworlders had made their point with overwhelming clarity. 6 months after the Battle of New Terra, the galaxy looked very different. The Galactic Council no longer existed. In its place stood the Terran Federation, with representatives from all 47 species working together under human leadership. The change had not come through conquest, but through the simple understanding that resistance was pointless. Admiral Lisa Kane now held the title of Supreme Commander of the Federation Defense Force. Her office was located on Unity Prime, the former council station that had been completely rebuilt. Through her window, she could see ships from dozens of species working together on construction projects that would have been impossible under the old system. The transition had been surprisingly peaceful. Once the galaxy understood what humanity was truly capable of, most species had chosen cooperation over destruction. The few who had initially resisted changed their minds when they saw what happened to those who continued fighting. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral, commanded the Federation fleet from his flagship Retribution. His crews were mixed. Teams where humans served as commanders and strategists while alien specialists handled technical operations. The arrangement worked well because everyone understood their role in the new order. "Admiral Kane," Morrison said during their weekly strategy meeting, "the Outer Rim colonies are reporting complete success with the integration programs." Kane nodded as she reviewed the reports on her display. "What about the former Krillian territories? War Chief Malfin has been very cooperative. His warriors are actually excited about working with human tactical officers. Apparently, they consider us worthy opponents now." Kane smiled at that. The Krillians had become humanity's most enthusiastic allies once they understood what real warfare looked like. General Kixta of the Vrex often complained that the pirates showed more respect for human authority than some of the supposedly civilized species. Dr. Alex Turner had established the Institute for Interspecies Studies on Unity Prime, where he helped other species understand the psychological differences that had made conflict inevitable. His most popular lecture was called Understanding Predator Psychology, which was required viewing for all new Federation officers. The key point, Turner explained to a mixed audience of alien cadets, is that humans do not fight to dominate or to prove superiority. We fight to eliminate threats and protect those under our care. This is why the galaxy became safer when humans took charge, not more dangerous. A young Zephyrian officer raised her hand. "Dr. Turner, why did humans hide their abilities for so long if they were not planning conquest?" Turner smiled gently. "Because we learned early that our true nature frightens other species. We hoped that by showing only our peaceful side, we could build relationships based on mutual respect rather than fear." "But the Council planned to eliminate humanity entirely," pointed out a Vrex cadet. "How did you know this would happen?" "We did not know for certain," Turner admitted, "but we prepared for the possibility. Human history taught us that when someone wants to destroy you, the best response is to make sure you cannot be destroyed." The changes went far beyond military and political structures. Dr. Helen Ross had opened her research facilities to scientists from across the galaxy, sharing technologies that advanced every species simultaneously. Fusion reactors that could power entire star systems, medical equipment that could regrow lost limbs, and manufacturing techniques that turned asteroid mining into an art form. The remarkable thing, Ross explained to her research team, is how quickly everyone adapted once they stopped thinking of technology as a zero-sum competition. Lieutenant Sam Peters, now a colonel in charge of Federation security, oversaw the integration of former enemies into the new system. His biggest challenge was not preventing conflicts, but managing the enthusiasm of species who wanted to contribute to human projects. The Altarians have offered to redesign our communication networks, Peters reported during a staff meeting. They say they can improve efficiency by 40%. What do they want in return? Asked Morrison. Access to our educational databases. They want to study human art and literature. Kane laughed. 6 months ago, they were planning our extinction. Now they want to understand our poetry. The transformation was most visible in the former Council territories. Worlds that had been restricted by complex regulations and ancient prejudices suddenly found themselves free to trade, explore, and innovate. The rigid hierarchy that had dominated galactic politics for millennia gave way to a merit-based system where good ideas mattered more than species origin. Commander Veltar of the Zephyrians had been promoted to head the Federation's diplomatic corps. His first assignment was negotiating with species that had never been allowed to join the old council due to their primitive technology or unstable governments. It is remarkable, Veltar told Kane during one of their meetings, how many brilliant civilizations we ignored simply because they did not fit our narrow definition of advancement. Humans learned long ago that survival often depends on working with others, regardless of their background, Kane replied. Some of our greatest achievements came from cooperation between very different groups. The economic changes were equally dramatic. Human mining operations, no longer constrained by artificial limitations, brought prosperity to regions that had been poor for centuries. The advanced manufacturing techniques that humanity had developed in secret became available to everyone, creating abundance where there had once been scarcity. War Chief Malthan found himself in the unexpected position of governing former Krillian territories that were now peaceful and prosperous. His warriors, retrained as Federation peacekeepers, patrolled trade routes that had once been too dangerous for civilian ships. I do not understand how this works, Malthan confessed to Morrison during a visit to the Krillian capital. My people were raiders and conquerors for 1,000 years. Now they protect merchant ships and help build schools. Humans learned that protecting others gives life more meaning than dominating them, Morrison explained. Your warriors were always brave and skilled. Now they use those qualities for creation instead of destruction. General Ryan Cole had retired to his farm on Earth, but his influence remained in the military academies that trained Federation officers. His doctrine of overwhelming preparation and decisive action was taught alongside courses in xenopsychology and cultural sensitivity. The goal is not to win battles, Cole explained to a group of visiting military students. The goal is to make battles unnecessary. When potential enemies know you cannot be defeated, they choose cooperation instead of conflict. The transformation extended to the smallest details of daily life. Space stations that had once been segregated by species became cosmopolitan communities where humans, Zephyrians, Vrex, and dozens of other peoples worked side by side. Children grew up learning multiple languages and playing games that combined traditions from across the galaxy. On Earth itself, the reveal of humanity's true capabilities had led to a golden age of exploration and discovery. The colonies that had been hidden for centuries opened their doors to visitors, showing off achievements that amazed even other humans. Dr. Turner established cultural exchange programs that allowed young people from every species to study on other worlds. The most popular destination was Earth itself, where alien students came to understand how a Deathworld had produced a species capable of such precise violence and such generous protection. The paradox of humanity, Turner wrote in his final report, is that the same evolutionary pressures that made us deadly also made us loyal? We eliminate threats not because we enjoy destruction, but because we will do anything to protect those we care about. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity stopped holding back. Children of every species learned about the Battle of New Terra, not as a tragedy but as the moment when the galaxy learned what true strength looked like. The Deathworlders, who had hidden among them for centuries, had finally revealed themselves, and the galaxy had become a better place. In the end, humanity's greatest victory was not proving they were stronger than everyone else. It was proving that strength could be used to build rather than destroy. The species that had evolved to eliminate threats had chosen instead to eliminate the need for threats to exist. Museums throughout the galaxy displayed artifacts from the old Council era, reminders of a time when fear and prejudice had nearly led to genocide. Visitors would read about the cleansing protocol and wonder how anyone could have thought eliminating humanity was a good idea. The galaxy had learned to respect Deathworlders. More importantly, it had learned that the strongest predator could choose to be the greatest protector. Peace had not come through weakness or compromise, but through the demonstration that war was pointless when one side held such overwhelming advantages. In the far reaches of space, beyond the boundaries of known civilization, other species detected the radio signals coming from Federation territory. They heard music and laughter, stories and poetry, scientific discussions and philosophical debates. They heard the sounds of a galaxy at peace, and they wondered what had changed to make such harmony possible among so many different peoples. The answer was simple, though they would not learn it until they were ready to join the growing Federation.